All right, Joyce, I hit record.
Good evening. Thank you and welcome to Not in Our Town's continuing conversation on race and white supremacy. We begin our sessions each time with our land acknowledgement. The land on which we are living is part of the ancient homeland and traditional territory of the Lenni Lenape people. We pay respect to the Lenni Lenape people past, present, and future, and their continuing presence in their homeland and in the diaspora. We also acknowledge the millions of enslaved Africans and their descendants on whose backs the wealth of this nation was created. Not in Our Town, Princeton is a multiracial, multi-faith group of individuals who stand together for racial justice and inclusive communities. Our focus is to promote the equitable treatment of all and to uncover and confront white supremacy, the system that facilitates the preference, privilege, and power of white people at the expense of non-white people and pits racial and ethnic groups against each other by upholding the hierarchies based on proximity to whiteness. Our goal is to identify and expose the political, economic, and cultural systems which have enabled white supremacy to flourish and to create new structures and policies which will ensure equity and inclusion for all. In our commitment to uncovering the blight of white supremacy on our humanity, we take responsibility to address it and to eliminate it in all its forms through intentional actions, starting with ourselves and our community. It's with great pleasure that I get to introduce my brother, Dr. Roberto Schiraldi, who will be our presenter for this evening. Dr. Schiraldi, Roberto, is a trauma therapist and a racial justice advocate and trainer. He's retired from counseling and psychological services at Princeton University and a past president of the New Jersey Multicultural Association he's a past president, for the Association of Multicultural Counseling for the state of New Jersey. Roberto is a pipe carrier in the Sicangu. All that time I practiced. The
Sicangu.
Thank you. The Sicangu. All right. Lakota Native spiritual healing tradition. A veteran, a Vietnam era veteran, a member of the Veterans for Peace, and the former board member of Not in Our Town. Please excuse my introduction, Roberto. Welcome everybody and Roberto to our session this evening. Thank you.
I can't think of anyone I'd rather have introduce me than you. I love you and I really miss you, missing us working together for so many years too. Oh, so is it okay if I start now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm going to start with the pipe song that I was given. For many parts of many summers, I was blessed to be invited out to the Rosebud Reservation, South Dakota. It's the home of the Sicangu Lakota people. And actually, my grandson Alistair is here, and my dear brother from another mother, John, is also here. I was out on the reservation for them, with both of them also. When I went into one of my first sweat lodges, a really hot experience with hot rocks from a fire put into a pit, and then in this enclosed dark space, which so much beauty and love comes out. One of my first sweat lodges, two of my teachers said, Roberto, you're such a good man, but you've got to learn how to be more compassionate with yourself. And I was stunned to hear that, because I had been already a trauma therapist and helping many people for many years, but I was still being really hard on myself, which comes from a lot of my background. But that's part of one of the main themes that I'm going to be talking about here, how to be more compassionate with ourselves, especially as we do this really difficult racial justice work, but really just in general, how to be more loving and compassionate and kind with ourselves. And with that, then we can truly be more compassionate and kind with everyone else. So I just want to invite us all to, for a second, to take a big breath, a deep breath in and out, soothing and comforting, loving breath of love and light and comfort. And I'm going to sing this song that I was given. And on this drum that I was given by Grey Wolf, an Inuit elder, my dear brother John painted. You can, oh yes, you can see some of it. He's an artist also, besides being a counselor who ran the counseling center at Temple. He black-tailed deer, white buffalo calf, tree of love and life, and the eagle. All are sacred, and we'll talk more about that. Loosely translated, that means it's easy to be sacred when we're doing sacred things. Please help us to remember that we're all sacred all the time and all life is sacred. And that message is at the heart of what I'm going to be talking about, that along with love, what love really is, especially the way Bell Hook defines it, because most of us don't really have good understanding of the real essence of love, in my estimation. So, and sacred meaning highly valued, very important, cherished, precious, unique, worthy of love and honor and respect and dignity and awe and wonder. And I'm no better, no worse than that insect, that plant, that tree, that woman, that child, and that other man. That all life is sacred. So that's the core belief that I believe in, that I learned out on the reservation, because my religious backgrounds didn't necessarily teach me that. And it resonated with my spirit at a deep level. So I tried to do my best to remember that. So I want to offer that to you, as well as when we talk more about love. And that we are all born a crystal, as my brother taught me, meaning that we're all born worthwhile, but a lot of times we're not taught that we're worthwhile, we're taught that we have to earn it. And then maybe if I do this and accomplish this and accomplish, then maybe I'll be worthwhile and feel worthy. Rather than what I believe is that we're all born worthy, we're just not taught that necessarily. So those are two of the core concepts about how we can heal ourselves from this dis-ease of white supremacy that hurts us all. And I want to honor all the ancestors, the Latinx, Asian, Pacific Islanders, immigrants, refugees. And I'm so happy to be here with my dear friends, loved ones from not in our town. And I'm really grateful that each of you chose to be here. You could have been anywhere and you chose to be here. So thank you for caring. Life is short. My dear love of my life, Eileen Gallagher, died 5 months ago to this day, actually, I think, on Halloween evening. And she taught me how to love. I was telling that to Kim a little while ago. She taught me how to be a better man and a better human being, what real love is. Helped me to be willing to be vulnerable, to not keep any secrets, to be committed to complete honesty. Things that I had to learn a long time ago when I was really in a sick place after I got out of the service and after divorce and everything else. So learning about love and how to learn how to love myself and how to share that love with all others is a core element here that we miss oftentimes. And my hope and my prayer is that when I leave you this message of love, and that we able to teach our children about love and push that forward in a message in a loving way in schools and all the institutions in our government, our military, our police, corporations, banks, churches, schools, our families, and for all the leaders to have love as the guiding, liberating, most powerful force there is in the universe. But we've forgotten about it. And like Martin Luther King said, Dr. Martin, Reverend Martin Luther King, when we're filled with love, there's no room for hatred or fear. So I'm going to talk about, there's 5 principles to how we can heal, or 5 steps that I wanted to offer you. A lot of you know a lot of this stuff, so it'll be repeating, but some of these things are so important, I think they bear repeating. One is we need clear, agreed upon guiding values, because I think we don't have, a lot of times we don't have them. This country wasn't founded on values of all life is sacred. It was founded on values of, well, life is expendable in a lot of ways. God's anointed ones with a small g, because I don't believe God with a capital G would have anointed people to come over here and massacre using the doctrine of discovery to justify it, massacre and genocide of people who had already been here for thousands of years, not to mention the horrific treatment of enslaved Africans that helped build this country. How was that justified that 10 of the first 12 presidents had slaves? How is that okay? And to me, we always have to be repeating that, not to blame or shame or guilt anyone, but just to remember where we come from, the truth of the principles that started the country, unfortunately, and are still running it, unfortunately. And that's why so many of us are still in so much pain, because we haven't really acknowledged the truth in a way that I think needs to be done, a real truth and conciliation transformation process that Not in Our Town we've talked about that, you know, and how important that is, because that's a way that we could really do some healing. So we need clear agreed upon values, and I'll come back to, and that's the first one. We need a commitment to doing our own ongoing inner work, and we'll talk more about what that means, and a continual reminding ourselves of the accurate history, racial literacy, the true history, not the whitewashed history. We need ideally finding trusted allies, like folks in Not in Our Town, creating safe support system of trusted allies, and doing our individual external work. You know, do we broach? How do we address when we see or hear or feel hurtful racisms or any isms? What do we do? Do we do something? And then the last one, number 5, doing our outer group solidarity work with all groups coming together, working class, black, brown, Asian, Pacific Islanders, immigrants, gay, straight, trans, women, men, all the groups coming together. I hadn't seen the statement from Not in Our Town in a long time, and I just love it so much, and I'm so grateful for that reminder. So let's go back to, we need clear, agreed upon guiding values. So to me, it's about, and there's a song that I would really encourage you all to check out. It's on, if you go to YouTube videos at some point, it's an old song by, when I was in the service, I heard the song and it just came into my mind not too long ago, by Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, that old group. And it was called Teach Your Children Well. And some of the lines in it were great. And there's an animated version. It's called the official music video. and it's an animated version. It starts with a picture of a young boy with a facing a gun, and then on the road. And in the song, it's you who are on the road must have a code that you can live by. And parents, teach your children well, and children, teach your parents well, and know they love you, and know they love you. So if we teach our children well, and that's the primary focus of our schools and our churches and all the places where young people, where all of us learn lessons of life, value lessons of life, if we teach as the main message, the main mission about love, what it is to be a loving human being, and how it's like Easter is yesterday, and main message there, the same messages in all the teachings. Love thy neighbor as thyself. We have to first learn how to love ourselves so that we can share that love with all life that is sacred. If we did that, and we had that as the main mission of our schools and our churches, if that was the core mission, yes, learn all you want to do about biology and math and science and make as much money as you want, but first learn what it means, what are the core ingredients of being a good human being, how to serve all others. Service should be another main ingredient of our teachings, of our schools and educations. So, and hopefully it's about committing and recommitting to living by our core values individually and collectively in relationships with community and all the institutions, as I mentioned before, the government, military, police, corporations, banks, churches, schools, families, all leaders. Agreed upon values. The second part of my book, if you're interested in my books, because I've written some books on, they're ostensibly poetry books, but the second half of my first book, and you can get it if you're interested by going online, checking out Roberto Schiraldi. And if anyone wants to talk about any of the stuff we cover, please feel free to call me on my or send me an email first on my email, Roberto Schiraldi at Yahoo, and check out my website, robertoschiraldi.com, and on there it lists the books and CDs that actually Alistair, my grandson, made copies for. But the second half of the book is all about little short essays and articles about action steps that we can take to address racial justice inside ourselves and all life, all around us. So you might find some of it helpful. Commitment to doing our own inner work. That's the second idea about how we can help heal ourselves. And that's an ongoing, lifelong process also. To me, racism, sexism, homophobia, xenophobia, classism, all the isms live inside me, and I think in all of us, because we were brought up in this culture. So to me, my job, especially as a man with as a basically hetero, and I say that basically because I see myself as two-spirit from what I was taught in the Lakota, in the Sicangu Lakota spiritual traditions, and that is that I try to celebrate the highest qualities of the sacred feminine and the highest qualities of the sacred masculine all in one, which I believe are all inside all of us. Again, it's just we're not taught this enough. So a commitment to doing our own inner work, uncovering all the vestiges of the biases that live inside us, and continually reminding ourselves and learning more about accurate history and keeping to speak it, not just speak it once and then try to forget it because it's too unpleasant. Of course it's unpleasant. If it didn't make us, if this horrific treatment that started our country and still is going on didn't make us angry or upset, I'd be really concerned. That's to me a normal reaction. And then how do we do that? How do we take care of our feelings? How do we comfort and soothe ourselves, get out the anger and the rage and other pain so that we can then move to taking loving action? So that's the process to me, the commitment to doing our own inner work. And then finding trusted allies, number 3. like folks in Not in Our Town, like amazing good folks in Not in Our Town, and creating a safe support system of trusted allies. This work is too hard to do alone. And so we need people that we can feel safe with to explore. And when I make a mistake, no big drama, because we're going to make mistakes. Joyce and I and Linda and a couple of us, I think maybe Caroline and some others. I'm sorry, my mind went blank. We did some presentations on none of us is perfect. That this is hard work and we're gonna make mistakes. I've put my size 12 foot in my mouth so many times, I can't tell you. The thing I learned is not to beat myself up and not to do a big drama anymore, but just to hold myself accountable, because that's part of love, being responsible and accountable. Figure out how that happened, clean it up, make a plan to do it better, and then carry through on that. It's that simple. And then doing individual external work, like addressing the behaviors in ourselves and others that I see, hear, when I hear words, behaviors, other isms. And doing so with loving curiosity, as one of my teachers, Aminata Kemp, told me, having loving curiosity when I address somebody who may be saying something that feels hurtful to me. So not necessarily attacking, but saying, please help me understand. We did that once when we were out in front of the gates with Linda Ricker and Eileen and I, and this guy stopped, or it was just Linda and I at the time. And it works. It works. This guy stopped, and I thought it was going to be really. He said, "Oh, well, I had a Black Lives Matter sign," and he said, "All lives matter." Somebody drove by and said, "All lives matter, you racist." And so I gave him a peace sign or something. He turned around and came. The car came, and I thought, "Oh boy, here we go." But the teachings, I remember the great spirit, the teachings of that all life is sacred and have compassion and love. He realized, and we both realized that we're both veterans. And I said, you're right. All lives do matter. The problem is we're not treated that way. The 1% who are running the show don't necessarily see it that way, and the policies and the laws don't necessarily translate that way, that all of us matter. So that was the love piece, that holding somebody with unconditional love and acceptance, holding myself that way first so I can stay calm, and then lastly, doing our outer group solidarity work with all the groups coming together. Working class, Black, Brown, Asian, Pacific Isles, immigrants, gay, straight, trans, women, men. If all the groups come together rather than us being pitted against each other like the white supremacy value system does, it's very clever. And then, we can work towards ensuring that there's acceptable food, clothing, and shelter for everybody. Oh, I've totally lost track of the time. How much time do I have left? So, love, I need to talk about love. So this is about, and again, I mentioned, I think, Bell Hooks in her book, All About Love, talks that we need to learn what love really means. We don't, it's just too easy to throw around the word, I love you, I love you, I love you, without really knowing what it means. And she says we need to define it really carefully. So the love active, and it's an action, it's a verb, it's not a noun. It's ingredients, the active ingredients are compassion, gentleness, integrity. So important, 100% integrity, because that 1% will kill me. Literally, it'll sabotage my life. That's why I was suicidal at one point, because I wasn't speaking truth. Integrity, trust, kindness, respect, patience, commitment, 100% commitment to speaking truth, to living love, to walking as the good red road, as we say on the reservation, to being dependable, dependability, responsibility, fully accepting of myself and all others, safety, understanding, vulnerability, what Eileen taught me, to be completely vulnerable, and a commitment to mutual spiritual growth, whatever that means to us. For me, spiritual is how I connect to myself and all life around me. That's the spiritual. When I'm out in nature, when I'm with people. And Neil Donald Walsh said, we have an economic, we don't have an economic or political problem. We have a spiritual problem. And the Lakota talk about Matakeo Yasin. We are all one. We are all connected. All my relatives, all my relations. So those are the messages that we want to be teaching. And I think I may have, Joyce and I did a program years ago on healing from racial trauma. There's some wonderful slides about folks who have been oppressed by racial trauma and how to heal specific healings, like how to look at the common symptoms and how to take care of ourselves, get the support we need, acknowledge our feelings and the resilience and worth and strength of people who heal from these things. So if you're interested in those, I'll be happy to send them to you, the slides. I think they'd be very helpful. As well as the last thing I'm going to say is there is in the last part of the book, the first book, the Healing Love Poems for White Supremacy Culture, Living Our Values, there are two inventories that are actually taken from Fearless and Searching Kind Moral Inventory that my brother put out in his self-esteem book and Healing from Trauma. And it's an inventory where we look at indicators like honesty, kindness, commitment, fairness, equality, and then we kind of check ourselves. How do I match up to those in living my life? How do our leaders, how do our government, all the institutions, how do they match up to that? If we use that and to guide our laws and our policies, then to me that's how we can have some serious healing and acknowledging, like in a Truth and Conciliation, when the hurt that we've inflicted on folks, and that by vetting the folks who have been hurt so much, that we can then come up with strategies that are sustainable to help heal. Okay, I think I may have gone over my time, so I think I've shared with you the essence of what I wanted to share. I guess we're gonna be going into you'll be shown how to go into the small groups to talk about love, hopefully, loving action that each of us can take to help heal ourselves and to help heal our world around us, the people in our lives and so forth.
Will we go over the general guidelines with somebody? I can't remember. Somebody going to share the questions? Thank you so much, Roberto.
Sure.
I can read them. The community agreements. Listen to each other respectfully so that each person has an opportunity to be heard. Take space, make space. People are encouraged to overcome their reluctance to talk. Take care not to dominate the conversation. Allow everyone to have equal airtime. Be careful not to interrupt when someone else is speaking. Please agree to respect one another's privacy by keeping this discussion and people's names and identities confidential. We ask that you embrace the concept, whatever is said or shared in this room stays in this room. Please speak from your own personal experience to avoid making generalizations. White people may feel uncomfortable when a person of color shares a hard truth. They should also understand that sharing these truths may be painful or even traumatic for the person of color. While we commit to centering these conversations through the lens of race, participants may experience these conversations through a variety of lenses. We acknowledge intersectionality, the interconnected nature of social categorizations such as race, class, and gender, regarded as creating overlapping and interdependent systems of discrimination or disadvantage, as said by Kimberly Crenshaw. We make space for the breadth of human experience, and all are welcome. The discussion questions for this evening, which people who have signed up for our newsletter or to be notified by the library will have already received these. 1. How has this dis-ease of wealthy white hetero male supremacy cultural values hurt me personally, and how has it affected my interaction with others? With so many of us feeling disconnected, oppressed, even alienated from ourselves, what are 3 loving things I can do for myself and for others moving forward? What would make this particularly challenging for me? What would help me? Okay. So I'll put everyone in their rooms, into the breakout rooms, and please feel welcome to discuss with the people who join you there.
You'll have a facilitator and then we'll all come back into the main group.
Thank you, Shelley.
Yep.
So you should get an invitation to join if you wish.
Yes.
Yes, it has. Who was that just spoke? I couldn't hear that.
It was me, Lori Simon.
Oh, hey, Laurie. How you doing? And Wilma. Oh my God, I haven't seen you in so long. Barbara, Vicky Fox. Holy mackerel, Barbara. Hi.
We lost Shelley temporarily, but she's coming back.
I'm back. Sorry. Some kind of Zoom glitch.
Hooray. Welcome.
So typically what happens in the small groups is that everyone thinks that their small group was the best, which is just a sign of the strength of our community and our commitment. But we do like to have an opportunity to invite friends to share from what probably was the best small group, something that struck you, or that or that you were just on the verge of saying as you got whisked back into this larger group, something that someone else said that you found resonated with you, or that brought your understanding to a different place. Please let's all benefit from each other's perspectives for a few minutes. You can probably just unmute and speak. It's not that big of a.
Caroline, were you talking? Okay.
Well, in Joyce's group, Joyce Trotman Jordan's group, we were all kind of admiring the way she has schooled herself to strike up conversations with seeming strangers, and this is her way of living by Roberto's dictum to lead with love. And so she starts out with, where did you grow up, which tells a lot, and then just by engaging individuals in conversation, particularly she as a Black woman talking to a white person, just by that very conversation can build bridges.
Thank you, Barbara. And we also talked about historically, I grew up thinking that, that white people were right, and that initially that there must be something wrong with me. But then as I grew older and I studied and I went to school, and I realized that there's nothing wrong with me. I'm perfectly fine. My people are fine. My people are really survivors. We survived some horrible stuff that has been done to us in this country in the name of white supremacy ideology. And once I got that message, then it was like, okay, so it's not me. I'm not the one that is ill. But what I can do is to help other people, I hope, to see that, one thing, I'm not ill, my people are not ill, and we're perfectly fine, but we've been dealt a very bad hand. So that was kind of like the sum note of our conversation. Anybody else? Kathy, Linda, from our group?
Well, I was surprised by the remark of one of our team's members that talked about the GI Bill and how she thought white people had pulled themselves up by their bootstraps, and she learned that Black people weren't given the same, or weren't offered the same benefits, or Black military men weren't offered the same benefits that whites were offered. So this coming up by your bootstrap story is a fallacy. That's the first time I've ever heard a white person describe that. That's positive.
Thank you.
I'm new to this group, and I'm not sure what Lead with Love is about. Is it a way? I'm not sure.
I can answer that. I love myself enough, and I love humanity enough to not want to harm. So I will speak truth. Although truth is painful for some white folks, it's still truth. The lynchings that happened in this country were painful. They were unjust. They were disgusting. The laws that they created in this country to keep my people oppressed were disgusting. I'm not saying that to harm anyone, and I'm not saying that to hurt anyone. It's truth. How can we make sure that that never happens again? So I lead with love because I love me, and I love all them little Black children, them little Black, brown children all over the country, and those little white children that I teach and care about too. I just said to Wilma's grandson, say hello to Auntie Joyce. These are my children. And I've got to teach them to love. Roberto said it well. Teach them. Teach the children to love. Teach them well. And that's how we have to lead with love.
Thank you, Auntie Joyce. Barbara, did you have something you wanted to share? Oh, no, you're just switching to your button collection.
No, sorry, I'm having a problem with this. I was just also going to say, because leading with hate doesn't work anyway.
Mm.
I just want to add also that Roberto had said we're all one. We're all connected and we're all one. And if we are, and it's true, we all are. If we only we understood that, if only we were looking down on the earth and realized like through some kind of microscope or telescope, it's just all these cells are vibrating near one another and it's all one. If we understood it, like we wouldn't want to hurt because we're one. So why would we want to hurt ourselves or anyone? So, I mean, that came up a lot in our conversations, and I just think it's such an important thing to be aware of and stay aware of. And that's how you lead with love.
One of the perspectives that came up in our group, Cruz was talking about the sort of essential nature of acting from where you are, bringing your energy into the local, the circles in which you are currently traveling and moving. That we sometimes get tempted by abstraction, and there's a lot of people trying to get us to be thinking about, you know, problems as being beyond us and outside of us, and it's like, yeah, but everybody had a story to share, didn't we? So in our day-to-day lives, if we are intentional and thoughtful and thinking about the times in which we thought we might say something but then didn't, or, you know, those little moments, there are lots and lots of opportunities to dig in, to pitch in, to turn to a friend and say, did you experience it the way I experienced that? Because to me, that wasn't funny.
Who is Wilma? Oh, hi, Wilma. I'm just reading your message. You were at Douglas also, huh?
It's a small world. My mom went to Douglas.
Yeah.
Any other last little tidbits that you feel would be beneficial for others to hear, things that struck you?
I had
Maybe-
a very interesting discussion with my two boys who are 28 and 30 and their cousin who's also 30. And we were talking about racial injustice, and they are acutely aware of why the Black story has not been taught in school. Why don't they know about Malcolm X? Why don't they know about, and they were rattling off names that I had never heard. So it warmed my heart to know that they don't see color, they don't see gender, they're totally fine with live and let live, and they want to know why some of these important stories, like Joyce, you had mentioned, the lynchings and all of those things. I mean, unless you watch 12 Years a Slave or any Color Purple or any of those movies, you just don't know about this stuff. And it's a travesty. So it was very uplifting to me to hear the next generation coming up that is aware of that stuff and are trying to do things about it. So I thought you all would feel good about hearing that.
Yeah, I think today's young people are very different. And I will tell you, at Princeton University, there's always been white students who went through all the African American studies programs. So people are changing.
I have learned in recent years a little bit more about my family's background, and I've always felt so privileged to have been raised in Washington, D.C., gone to a school where I was a minority and was taught by mostly Black teachers who were just fantastic. And to have parents who were, you know, happy in the 60s to send me to that school. And yet, there's been a cloud of silence about some of my forebears, and it was out of respect for their wish not to talk about some people in the family or who did what. And given that they came, on one part of my family came from Oklahoma, given that Killers of the Flower Moon has come out in that book, which I read, given that the Tulsa Race Massacre happened in 1921, and I learned about that in recent years, was comforted to realize that not even Judy Woodruff, who came from Tulsa, knew about it until a few years ago. I've begun to discover something about that background and what travesties happened within my family. And I just feel that there's been such a, we talk about child abuse. I think anyone who's been raised to cooperate or to be silent and to still take advantage of the privileges offered to whites, there's been a form of child abuse, through every generation that has kept these things silent. And the movies that have come out, the books that have come out, I think we're all, in this younger generation that you referred to, there is a leavening going on. It's overwhelming to me to think about, well, what do I do with what I've learned and what I think I'm starting to know in my own family? But still, that awareness, I just can't help but think that it really will have an impact. It's happening all over.
Thanks very much, friends. Please let's all thank Roberto for seeding the ground with such wisdom and perspective. Really appreciate your time with us this evening. You've given everybody a lot to think and feel about, and we really appreciate it. We also, of course, appreciate the continuing support and partnership of the Princeton Public Library, who are steadfast, and we literally couldn't be doing our work without their support. So very much a partnership. And speaking of Princeton University and the connections in learning that happen there, our speaker for next month, these programs are typically on the first Monday of the month, and next month will be on that sort of traditional trajectory. So we'll be meeting again on Monday, May 8th, and we'll be hearing from Dr. Lorgia Garcia Pena, who is a professor at Princeton University in the Department of African American Studies and the director of the program in Latino Studies. We will be meeting in person and on Zoom. So you may join us in person at the library or back here on Zoom by registering. Dr. Garcia Pena is a writer, activist, and scholar who specializes in Latinx studies with a focus on Black Latinidades. Her work is concerned with the ways in which anti-Blackness and xenophobia intersect in the global North, producing categories of exclusion that lead to violence and erasure. Should be a really powerful program. We encourage all of you to come right back, either in person or virtually, to join us and bring a friend. More hearts, more minds, more change. Thank you again, everybody.
Thanks, Shelley. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Roberto.
Thanks, Shelley.